Oh, time to get up. Gotta go meet the sun. Oh, yeah. Surrounded by the presence, surrounded by a friend. The source of all creation allows me to begin. The source of all creation allows me to begin again. Ale, alleluia. Ale, alleluia. Ale, alleluia. Ale, alleluia.
Hi, this is Michael Jackson. Ricky, I really love what you and Reverend Michael Beckwith has done in creating the sound of agape with your beautiful music. God bless you.
Peace and riches blessings to you. This is Michael Bernard Beckwith, the founder and spiritual director of the Agape International Spiritual Center and the author of Spiritual Liberation, Life Visioning, Fulfilling Your Soul's Potential, and 40-Day Mind Fast Soul Feast. You're entering now into the vibration of Wake Up, the sound of transformation, a weekly program that invites you to discover not only who and what you really are, but to embrace the evolutionary impulse that governs all creation, that you may live up to your true potential, that you may anchor the realm of ever-expanding good, the realm of excellence on earth as it is in the mind of the infinite. Today, you're listening with the ear beyond the ear, that you can begin to catch that there's something magnificent about you and that your life is an on-purpose with a purpose. Week after week, we will have powerful guests who have embodied spiritual principles and who are activating their own potential to begin to assist in the birthing of a kind and just global society of which you are to be a soulful participant. Listen with the ear beyond the ear and feel absolutely that there is something so good about you that it must be expressed. You have entered into the vibration of Wake Up, the sound of transformation.
Come on, I'm taking an adventure in paradise. And guess what? I'm taking you with me.
And that's absolutely correct. This is Michael Bernard Beckwith, and we're inviting you into the dynamic paradise of your own soul. You know that particular track is track number 1 from the CD Transcendence by myself and Brother Stephen Bray. So I invite you to listen today with the ear beyond the ear and to feel into your heart. You've heard me say over the years that the veil is indeed thin and that there is something so eternal and everlasting about us that continues to grow and unfold and express itself. When we come back from this sound of agape break, we're going to be with Dr. Jamie Turndorf, who has the powerful book Love and Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased. We're going to have a beautiful conversation with her in just a moment after this sound of rhythm and joy.
I am the radiant light of God. I shine the light of love. I am the radiant light of God. I shine the light of love. When I stumble, I live by the light of my faith, shining both night and day, shining both night and day. I am the radiant light of God. I shine the light of joy. I am the radiant light of God. I shine the light of joy. When I see your face, I see God's light guiding you on your way, guiding you on your way. I am the radiant light of God, shine the light of Jah. I am the radiant light of God, I shine the light of Jah.
You're hearing just a portion of Dr. Ricky B.B. singing Radiant Light, a song that we wrote a few years ago, and I know you're feeling it in your bones. I have with me today an individual who's known to millions as Dr. Love through the website AskDrLove.com. Dr. Jamie Turndorf has been delighting readers and audiences for 3 decades with her engaging blend of professional expertise, humor, and ability to turn clinical psychobabble into easy-to-understand concepts that transform lives and heal relationships. Her therapeutic methods have been featured on CNN, NBC, CBS, VH1, and Fox, and on websites WebMD, iVillage, Discovery.com, MSNBC.com, and the magazines Cosmopolitan, Men's Health, Glamour, American Woman, Modern Bride, Marie Claire, and several others. She also writes a column called We Can Work It Out for Psychology Today online. Her Ask a Dr. Love radio show can be heard in Seattle on KKNW and on webtalkradio.net, which broadcasts in 80 countries worldwide. She's the author of several critically acclaimed books on love and relationships. However, it was after the death of her husband, Dr. Emil John Penn, her beloved husband of 27 years, and her immediate spiritual reconnection with him, that she discovered that relationships do not end in death. Gene's miraculous manifestations, often in front of witnesses, have proven that there is life after life. These experiences have led Dr. Turndorf to develop a groundbreaking form of grief therapy that combines her acclaimed conflict resolution techniques with after-death communication. The result? An unprecedented method that enables the bereaved to reconnect, heal unfinished business, and make peace with the deceased. She shares her amazing testimony and methods in her new book that I have right in front of me, Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased. Greeting, Jamie, and welcome to the show.
Hello, Michael. Oh, my Lord. I have chills from head to toe. It started when I heard your intro.
Oh, my God.
And your words and your voice, and you just opened the ears of my heart. And I'm just covered in goosebumps.
I love it. And I can hear the spirit, and I can hear the light, the luminosity moving through your being and your voice. And it's so great for us to meet this way.
Yes, it's finally happening.
It's finally happening. All the people that know you and know me and know us, it's really great to come together.
Yeah.
You know, and to really get into this book, Love Never Dies. And I want to hear the remarkable story between you and your beloved husband, Gene.
Oh, I
know it started on the earthly plane, but it continues in the spiritual realm.
Yes. You know the story because you've read Love Never Dies, but I'll share for your listeners.
Please.
Love Never Dies is in 3 parts. So the first part is really my own story. So I'll just give you a little bit of that so you get a foundation, which will then help you understand the rest of the book. So the story begins with my life. You know, from the time I was a young girl, Michael, I had a detailed premonition that I was going to marry. I actually saw him. I saw his face. I saw his body. So I said, okay, I'm just going to wait till he appears. I'm not going to date. I'll just wait. Very medieval plan, right? And so he actually appeared on the first day of my freshman year at Vassar College. I'd been shut out of all intro sociology, and I really wanted to take sociology. So the secretary said, go ask the department chair, Jean Pain, if he can find a seat for you in one of the closed sections. Well, Michael, the minute I stepped into that man's office, I had the first and only out-of-body experience of my life. I literally felt my soul shoot at high speed through a tunnel to the end of my life. And then when I shot back into my body, I received the message, remember every aspect of this meeting, he's going to be everything to you one day.
Wow.
And then I forgot. I went about my life as a college student, but I should say at this point, because it's important to know, soon after I met Jean, I found out that for most of his life, he had been one of the most famous Jesuit priests in history. Right. He actually had taught at the Vatican. He founded a movement called Liberation Theology, designed to fight church oppression from within. He was a real radical feminist Jesuit, and he actually launched to international fame when he publicly opposed the Pope and the Catholic Church because they were trying to block the legalization of divorce in Italy, and he didn't want to see women trapped in marriages where they were being abused. Right. So he fought on the grounds of religious freedom. He won. He changed the course of Italian history, and soon after, he left the Jesuit order and the priesthood and was recruited by Vassar to be the chair of the Department of Sociology. Now, I have to say, because this is so important, I was raised by completely different kind of parents. I had 2 parents who were devoutly atheists. The only religion they practiced was religiously hating each other's guts. They taught me not to believe in God, not to believe in the afterlife. So very different background from Jean. Now, in the senior year at Vassar, I needed help with the statistical portion of my thesis. And I had heard that, among other things, Jean had been a statistician, having founded the Vatican's only social research center. So even though he wasn't my advisor, I asked him if he would help me with my statistics, and he cheerfully agreed. And Michael, within a couple of weeks, we knew. We were just crazy for each other. We were twins separated at birth. We were soulmates.
Right.
So we were together, inseparable. We wrote books together, restored houses together. We just rejoiced in every moment that we were together for 27 years.
Wow.
Now, in the last year of Jean's life, we both started having a premonition that he was going to die of an accident. We just didn't know when or where. So we go to Italy on our final summer vacation, and while we're sitting on the beach, Jean's hand is up over his head as if to block the rays of the sun. The next thing I know, a bee swoops down and stings his left hand at the exact location of Christ's stigmata. And Michael, I just watched my beloved suffocate to death in front of my eyes. There's no way to even describe the trauma of this. I'm just hysterical to have him ripped from me this way. And I go back to the hotel room, and I'm lying on the bed, and I'm shaking, and I'm trembling, and I'm crying. And the next thing I know, I feel that man's hand stroke the entire length of my spine. And I sit bolt upright. I look over my shoulder because I know what I felt. I don't see anything, but I know he's there. And he has been with me ever since that moment. And he has been making, to this day, the most astonishing manifestations of his spirit presence, often in front of witnesses, because he wants to tell the world, we don't die, and our relationships are not meant to end in death. And so this is what has led me to create my new transdimensional grief therapy method, because as a shrink, I know that the Western approach to grief, grieve, let go, and move on, and you better do it in 6 months or else we're going to give you a psychiatric label and drugs. I know. This just leaves the bereaved at a greater loss.
Right.
So my method shows you how to say hello, not goodbye, without a medium, a channeler, or a psychic. And then there's one more thing. As a shrink, I also know millions of people worldwide harbor unfinished business toward those in spirit. And again, traditional Western grief therapy gives us no way of making peace. So my method not only shows you how to reconnect, but also using my new dialoguing with the departed technique, I show you how to talk back and forth with your loved ones in spirit to work out any unfinished business you have.
Wow, that's a powerful story. You have a powerful modality to help people heal. And I want to get into that in a moment, but I want you to cover two things. One, you were cautioned not to write the book. Why was that, and what changed your mind?
Well, you know, the thing is, when you know the truth, you want to shout it from the rooftops. And, of course, because I'm a mainstream shrink, you know, and I was raised atheist and, you know, a woman of science, respected shrink, everybody said, Jamie, people are going to think you're nuts.
Right.
But I finally said, Jamie, you must tell the truth. And, of course, you know, when I get into some of the examples, you'll see why I had no choice but to tell the truth, because what Jean has brought to me, the proof of his presence, is so powerful. How can I not share this message with everybody?
Absolutely. You were not going to be shut up, so to speak.
No, I can't, because it is such a labor of love.
In reading your book, we see that you talk about earthly props.
Normally what I do, so people get a sense of the flow, I give them some of the examples from the first part, and then I go into part 2 where I help you overcome any blocks so that you can begin to reestablish your connection. And then part 3 is how you can actually establish your own dialogue. So is it okay if we put a placeholder in the earthly props and I'll come back to it?
Please, I want to go with your flow.
I'll just give you a few of the examples, and then we'll go on from there. So when I came back from Italy, you know, and I'm alone and I'm just beside myself, and I'm lying in the bed the first night, and Jean is speaking to me. I don't know what he's quoting, but I'll put that in a parenthesis. I'll come back to it. The next morning, my first morning back, I hadn't slept a wink, and I literally hear Jean saying to me, go down to the kitchen, open the door, I want to show you something. So I open the door to the back porch and garden, and I see a chipmunk is sitting on the step. And I am aware now that this chipmunk is not acting normally. He's frozen as if in a trance. He's not moving. He doesn't run away from me. His eyes are almost closed. And the next thing I know, Michael, I see this chipmunk begin to mimic my husband's bodily departure. He starts choking and gasping and ripping at his little face with his little hand the way Jean did, because the air wasn't getting into his lungs. So I'm watching this and I'm weeping. I'm weeping and weeping. 20 minutes of this, and I'm aware Jean is using this little creature as an open vessel to communicate to me what happened to him, because the next thing I know that blows my mind, the chipmunk coughs up a wonk of mucus, and he's fine. And that was Jean saying to me, I'm okay, Jamie, I'm okay.
Wow.
So now a couple of days later, I have to fax his death certificate to Verizon, the phone carrier, to take his name off the account. And I had sent many multi-page faxes throughout the day, no hitch. But when I go to fax his death certificate, the cover letter faxes, no problem. But the death certificate hangs up. It will not fax. I try again with the obit. Again, cover letter goes without a hitch. The obit will not fax. I try 20 times. I finally give up. The next day I go to the lawyer's office, and I say to the secretary, without telling her why, could you just fax this to Verizon for me? And I'm waiting and waiting. After about 20 minutes of this, all the secretaries come out of the back crying. They said, Jamie, we tried 20 times. Every time the cover letter faxes without a hitch, but the death certificate and the obit will not fax. He's trying to tell you he's not gone. So I go home, and again I have to fax the death certificate somewhere else, and he hangs it up again. So I say to him out loud, listen, Jean, I think you're doing this because I keep forgetting that you're still here with me. If I promise to try to remember, will you let this fax go through in its entirety? So I cancel the fax. I feel a tidal wave of love pouring into me, and I register that's his acknowledgement. I heard you. Okay. I reissue the fax. It goes through in its entirety. Wow. So now I'm realizing I'm on a wild ride, because wherever I go, strangers start walking up to me, and they say, oh, your husband says, tell our story. And then they walk on. They don't even know me.
Wow.
So at this point, I'm driving one day, and I get the feeling I have got to pray to Jean on behalf of a friend of mine named Emily. They never met each other, never even saw a picture of each other. So I pray to him, and I say to him, Jean, please help my friend Emily find love. Again, I feel that tidal wave of love, and I know he's acknowledging me. I look at the clock, and I see the time, 4:58. Mm-hmm. That night, I get a phone call from Emily. She says, Jamie, you will not believe what happened. I said, what happened? She says, today at 4:58, I fell into a trance, and I saw your husband. She describes him to a T. She said, he told me to find love, follow the gray stones to the church in your neighborhood. Well, by having her repeat the words of my prayer, help her find love, he was proving I heard you, and he was using her as a human open vessel to close the loop. I heard you, and I'm repeating the prayer to her. Now, a week later, I go to my professional group. She's a member of the group. She tells the story. And another member of the group, Mitch Wood, a former seminarian, says, oh, what was the name of the church he sent you to? She says, the Claremont Church. Mitch Wood says, oh, my gosh. The Claremont Church is New York's only liberation theology seminary. Well, talk about putting his stamp on it, being one of the founders of the liberation theology movement. So I'll just give you one more example, then we can go on. So one day I was crying. This was my hobby in the early days. I cried a lot. And I was in the closet crying, and I kept thinking, I've got to call my friend Ann. Don't bother her. It's the middle of her workday. Finally, after about 20 minutes, the phone rings. I pull myself up out of the closet. I get the phone. It's Ann. She says, Jamie, did you call me? I said, no, Ann, I was thinking I needed to talk to you. She said, but Jamie, my phone rang, and your name and number appeared on the caller ID. So we were so blown away that Jean actually knew I needed to talk to her. So he called her for me and put my name and number on the caller ID. Wow. So amazing, right? So now a year later, I have a chest cough, and I think I'm going to suffocate to death the way Jean did. So I say to him out loud, Jean, I am so scared right now. I need to know you're with me. Please do that caller ID phone trick right now. Do it with my housekeeper, Donna. I need to know you're here. Do this for me. 2 seconds later, the phone rings. It's Donna. Did you call? I tell her that I asked Jean to call her. She said, Jamie, my phone rang and your name and number appeared on the caller ID. So now I go to my professional writers group and I tell the story, and the head of the group, Gabe Davis, a devout Jewish atheist, says, I'd like to see that caller ID phone trick repeated. And this time, I'd like to see whether your phone shows a record of having been used, manipulated to dial out, even though you didn't use it. So I forget the whole thing. Months later, I'm driving behind Gabe and his wife in my car when all of a sudden I feel that tidal wave of love. I look at the clock, and it's 5:43. I get out of the car, and Gabe runs up to me. He says, "Jamie, you will not believe what happened." I said, "What happened?" He said, at 5:43, my cell phone rang. He said, "I looked at the name on the caller ID. It was your name. I picked it up, and a man's voice said, 'Is Jamie there? Is Jamie there?'" He said the voice had an accent and prolonged the word there. Jean was French, so he'd say there.
Right.
He prolonged it. He said it wasn't a real call. The voice just faded away, and the call never clicked off. He said, "Go get your phone. See if it dialed me at that time." So I dig into my purse. I hadn't used it all day, and I see 5:43. My cell phone called Gabe. So
Wow.
What is the point of all these over-the-top manifestations? Right after Jean left his body, he said to me, "Jamie, let our love shine like a torch that lights the path for others." So these manifestations are not just for me. They're for you, Michael. They're for everybody listening, to let everybody know that your loved ones are here with you too. They're just waiting for you to open the door of your heart and let them back in.
Wow. For those of you who are just tuning in, you have tuned in to Wake Up the Sound of Transformation. I am Michael Bernard Beckwith, and I'm with Dr. Jamie Turndoff. Her book, Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with Your Deceased, is her latest offering, and we're in dialogue, and she's speaking about the magnificent manifestations of her late husband, of course, who is still alive and still making communications with her in order to allow all of us to come to an understanding that, of course, there's life after life, and there's a continued connection and reconnection, and she also has powerful modalities to not only reconnect with your deceased, but also to help heal unresolved issues. That's the powerful, sweet voice you're hearing with me. Now, one of the things that I loved is you shared in response, there was a priest who said that the manifestations would stop, that once he entered heaven.
Thank you so much for bringing it up. So part 2 of Love Never Dies is all about how do you overcome the false beliefs and the false religious teachings. So the first example that I would give on that relates to the priest that you brought up, right? Because we are told, now of course I wasn't told anything because I was raised an atheist, but as I discovered, Christians are told that once your loved ones leave their bodies, they are in heaven, and there is no way for you to reconnect with them, and it's not something you're supposed to do. Now, how did I discover that not only this is what we're told, but that it's dead wrong, if you'll pardon the pun?
Right.
So what happened was, remember I said the first night Jean was quoting something to me, and I didn't know what it was. So the next day I go to meet his priest to prepare the readings for his funeral. And I tell the priest, my husband's been talking to me. He's quoting something. I have no idea what it is. So the priest raises his brow like, yo, this babe has really lost her marbles. But then I told him what Jean said. The priest goes white, and he says to me, "Dear Lord, Jamie, at first I didn't believe that Jean was speaking to you, but I do now." He said, "You are quoting an obscure biblical passage from the Communion of Saints." Like I would know. I never read the Bible, never went to church.
Right.
Took me 1 year, Michael, to understand why Jean chose to quote that and only that passage to me. So remember, he was a religious pioneer in life.
Right.
He continues to be in the afterlife. Jean was showing me the Communion of Saints because it is telling us that our loved ones in spirit are one with or in communion with God and the saints. And since we're supposed to stay in communion and communication with God and the saints, the Bible is telling us through the communion of saints, we're supposed to stay in communion and communication with our loved ones in spirit because they're one with God and the saints.
Right.
So that is Jean's point. What we've been told about the afterlife is dead wrong. Heaven is a state, not a place.
A state,
Heaven is all
yes.
around us.
Absolutely.
We should reconnect.
Absolutely.
Stay connected.
I remember a personal experience I had many years ago, over 40 years ago. I'd had a tremendous spiritual awakening, and I walked into a spiritual center, and the minister, Dr. Daniel L. Morgan, was saying, heaven and hell aren't places, they're states of consciousness. And I shouted out, he's right! Because I had never known that truth would be spoken from a church. It shocked me.
The point is, right? Jean said we are not supposed to live in an emotional wasteland separated from those we love, waiting until we die and we enter heaven so that then we'll be reunited, because heaven is here and now.
Absolutely.
We should reconnect now. Live heaven now.
Live heaven now.
That's very powerful.
Absolutely. Reminding me of the fact that my mother passed over about 3 years ago in March the 6th. and we called her the Hummingbird. So after her memorial service, every day, right before I began my other radio program, a hummingbird would fly up against the window and just hover right in front of me as I'm going on air, just to let me know everything was going to be all right.
Yeah.
And then 2 days ago, there was a lot of intensity going on in my life. And this hummingbird shows up, sits on this flower, is not flapping, is not hummingbirding around, and just staring at me. And I said, okay, Mom, thank you. I know everything's going to be fine.
Exactly. Your mom has a message. She says that bird has very, very busy little wings because she wants you to feel her arms around you like wings.
Yes. And she was busy, and she was always helping people and things of that particular nature.
Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, it's fantastic.
So that's where we go. In part 2 of Love Never Dies, I just dispel all the false beliefs. I don't know if we have time, or are we coming to the end of this segment?
Well, we got about 6 more minutes. I wanted you to also begin to talk about how he helped alter your physical appearance.
Well, I was gray. My hair was gray. And I kind of teased that it looked like a toilet brush. It was like a short fro and gray. So one day, early on, I heard him say to me, Jamie, I'm turning your hair from gray to brown. And I said, you can't do that. Once the pigment's lost, it's lost. So we had our first spirit argument, right? And he said, you'll see. So I just shut up thinking, yeah, right. Well, a few days later, I look in the mirror. I swear, my hair was brown. It's crazy. So I go to my hairdresser. She says, Jamie, are you two-timing me? And she said, no, I'm teasing. A hairdresser can tell when hair is colored, and I could see your hair is not colored.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
To prove his presence in my life and all of our lives. Amazing manifestations. And then, you know, he did say right after he left his body, I now have the power to fix your metabolic disorder. I needed to be in the form I'm in to fix your metabolic disorder, and he did. Within a few weeks, I went from like a size 24 to size 4. And nothing...
Wait a minute, let's stop.
I know. It's unbelievable.
2 weeks, you went from a size 24...
I went because it was all water. You don't lose fat that fast.
Right.
You see, I was born 3 months early. I tell all this in my memoir part, the first part. I was born 3 months early. My whole metabolic system wasn't properly cooked, you know. And I was very stress intolerant, and I was holding a lot of water from my adrenals not being formed right. And he just fixed me. I'm very skinny and sexy now.
So you went from a 24 to a 4 in a couple
somebody
of weeks.
said to me, oh, Michael should see you on air now. You know, you have to see. I've got this tiny little dress
I'm
on.
going to see you. I'm going to have you at Agape.
Yeah, you better. I tell you, I'm a fashion plate.
Now, we have a couple of more moments before we go to the music break. But one of the things that you share with tremendous candor is some of the relationships that you and him had while he was in the physical and how he helped you heal that from the other side.
Yes. You know, I had thought that I would end the show with that because there's something very powerful about the way he came to me and helped me heal all those things.
Let's put a place mark in that, and you can begin perhaps to tell us how he helped heal your relationship with your parents.
You know, it's so interesting. I've done thousands of interviews. I don't think I've ever talked with a more prepared host. You really digested this book. Nobody has asked me to talk about these things. This is why you are so popular, why people love you so much.
And I have good help.
Yeah, but, you know, it's really amazing. So as he came closer to what we knew was going to be this accidental death, he started to become more and more afraid of welcoming me when I would approach him, you know, emotionally, sexually. He was afraid. And we tried everything to resolve it, and we really were not successful in resolving it. And as soon as he left his body, he appeared to me in a visitation, and he said to me, if I only had known how close I could be to you from the beyond, I would not have had to hold you off like that. I was holding you off because I was trying to basically put some dilution in our connection because I thought you were going to die of a heart attack, of a broken heart, you know, when I...
trying to wean you.
That's the perfect word. I never thought of it that way, but that's the word. And basically what he was saying, he, this great mystic, who the Dalai Lama said, after Jean left his body, he said he was one of the 50 men of all time who was one with God. Even Jean didn't realize how close he could be to me from the beyond. That's how he said it.
This is powerful. People, we're talking to Dr. Jamie Turndoff. Love Never Dies, and I know you can hear the enthusiasm in her spirit and the absolutely coherence around the manifestations of her beloved husband and the miracles. And if you're listening with the ear beyond the ear, you can actually feel the authenticity of her direct experience with her beloved and his unfolding in Life After Life. We're going to come right back after this sound of agape music, and we're going to get into more of how he helped her with her relationship with her parents. We're going to get into what happens when you enter into the spirit realm and how it's never too late to make peace with the deceased. We're going to go off into deeper communications and beautiful practices for creating and increasing our state of receptivity. So we'll be right back.
Mankind is a child of the sun. Mankind is a child of the sun. First came the moon, which reflected the sun, and together the sun and the moon bore the earth. As she pleased, sighed the winds, cried the seas. Mother Nature indeed had a glorious birth. Mankind is a child of the sun, yeah. Mankind is a child of the sun. Sometimes in life there are problems and strife, and it seems that our dreams are mere figments of time, yeah. Earth as she turns holds the truth we could earn. See her fall, see her spring. She depends on sunshine. Mankind is a child of the sun, yeah. Mankind is a child of the sun. First came the moon, which reflected the sun, and together the sun and the moon bore the earth, yeah, yeah, yeah. And as you arrive to the truth that's inside of you, it's been there all the time. You will see finally you're a child of the sun. You will see finally you're a child of the sun.
Georgia Muldrow. That's Georgia Ann Muldrow, the daughter of Ricky Byers Beckwith, singing a song that Ricky wrote with Pharoah Sanders. It's called The Child of the Sun. It's very beautiful. I know you're all loving that, Georgia Ann Muldrow. It's on Georgia's CD entitled Early. I'm with Dr. Jamie, my God, the host of the radio show Ask Dr. Love and the founder of AskDrLove.com. Love Never Dies is her latest contribution, how to reconnect and make peace with the deceased. Welcome back, Jamie.
Guess what happened while I was standing here in the kitchen, and a little bird landed on my windowsill, and I felt that tidal wave of love, and I knew it was Jean with us so close in this interview, and I looked at the bird, and I silently said, "That's you, Jean, right?" Have the bird open his beak once to say hi, and the bird opened his beak once.
Oh, wow. I'm feeling chills on my shoulders right now.
I know.
It's all over my back and shoulders.
I know.
In Chapter 6 of your book, Dialoguing to Bring You Comfort, you talk about a series of experiences you had which led you to finally understand what he meant when he said that he would send you his clone. What did he mean by that?
This is what really ultimately healed me, because I was raised by two parents who beat me physically and emotionally and just tore me down all the time. And even though I spent 27 years with Jean, and he loved me like you can't imagine, and you could see he still does, even in spite of that, it didn't heal the part of me that was so beaten down by my parents. I still had a voice in my head that was their voice telling me I wasn't good enough. No matter how much success I had, no matter what, that voice would torment me. So after Jean left his body, I said to myself, I've just got to master this. So I was in my professional group, and I was talking to all those top analysts in there about it, and everybody said, which is the shrink party line, well, just shout louder than your parents' mean voices in your head, and just let our voices shout them into submission. Well, Michael, that never worked. It doesn't work for my patients. It never worked. So I come home, and I'm weeping, and I say, Jean, I am begging you to help me with this. And the next thing I know, he appears to me as the embodiment of love. He is surrounded in golden light. He takes my face in his hands. He turns me toward him in the light, and he says, Jamie, listen, listen, listen to me. Let my love for you fully enter you. And Michael, in that moment, it was a miracle. All the love that he always felt became my own self-love. And it was then that I discovered that now that he was free from the vessel of the human body, his love for me could enter me unimpeded in a way that he could never do when he was still trapped in a physical body. So I needed to wait until he was out of his body for his love to enter me, and essentially he spirit cloned himself into me.
Wow.
That's what happened.
Wow. So in going forward, when individuals are moving through this kind of process, do you invite them to hear and feel how much they're truly loved rather than drowning out voices?
So what we're talking about here is part 3 of Love Never Dies. What we're talking about is my new transdimensional grief therapy method. So after we get past all the false beliefs, and I go over all of them and I help you tick them all off and get rid of them.
Name a couple of the false beliefs before we...
Well, the one we talked about was it's not possible to stay in connection. Another one is, well, once they're in heaven, they're out of reach, and then you'll have to wait to see them again. And I have, a real good story about that one. Then, you're holding them back from performing their heavenly work, which is total BS, because as they say again and again, it's my full-time occupation to love you. What else is there for me to do? Another one is that we can't move on with our lives, which is quite the opposite, because when we reconnect, we transform our grief to instant joy, and we are able to re-enter our lives in a much more full way. So we are moving forward in a way we never could when we don't reconnect. And so many of these misconceptions, and then I talk about the science behind how it's possible, and I, bring in all the latest quantum physics, and I just demystify the whole thing, because essentially what we're talking about in a nutshell is energetic communication.
Yes.
And we're born with the innate apparatus to send and receive energetic signals. We have what I call a spirit channel in our brain. We just never learned how to tune to it. So what I do in part 3 of Love Never Dies is I show you how to tune to your spirit channel so that you are a receiver that can both receive and send energetic signals. So the first chapter in part 3, I show you how to create a state of receptivity, because the more receptive we are, the easier it is not only for us to send, but also for us to receive. So I have all kinds of exercises that you can do that help you build your spirit muscle, essentially.
Yes.
I show you my meditation for making contact. I give you a particular breathing exercise, because Jean showed me spirit is born on the breath. I show you how to use nature to help you open up and be more receptive, how to use hypnagogic or twilight states right before you go to sleep, or, all these things I show you. And then the next chapter is recognizing the signs. Because for most people, they're getting signs and they don't know it. So when they read all the signs, and I categorize them in this chapter, people say to me, oh, well, that happened to me, and so did this, and so did that. So for most people, just recognizing the signs is sufficient to begin their own reconnection. Now, the thing that people have to know is because our loved ones are freed from the human vessel, the ways that they influence the material world and give us signs of their presence are practically infinite. They do sounds. They can give us visual stimuli, auras. They can give us symbolic communications like rainbows, butterflies, and they love to drop coins on us. This year, I had a patient in my office named Kyla, and I said to her, Kyla, this is the anniversary week of Jean's bodily departure. And this week especially, he always drops coins on me that were minted the year he left his body.
Right.
So Kyla blinks and she says, Jamie, I almost forgot. See my cowboy boots that I'm wearing? Yes, I say. She said, these boots were off my feet. I was in my bedroom at home when a coin fell out of thin air, landed in the boot, and I got the message it was for you, and I forgot about it. Let me give it to you now, she said. So I hear Jean saying to me, you'll see it was minted 2006, the year I left my body. Wow. She hands it to me, 2006. Now, here's where Love Never Dies takes spirit communication to a whole nother place. This is the CEO of Hay House said to me, Jamie, we've never seen anything like what you do next. Because what I show you how to do is how to bring these signs to life, how to dialogue back and forth with the assistance of these signs, these earthly props, which are electronic devices and signs, and also open vessels, humans who are open, animals who are naturally open. And I show you how to engage in a back and forth dialogue. So this past year, the anniversary week of Jean's bodily departure, and how fitting, Michael, that you and I are together today, because Jean's burial anniversary was yesterday. Wow. It fits. So anyway, it was the anniversary. I go to the chiropractor, and Teresa and I are alone in the office. I tell her, this is the anniversary week, and I'm giving my first public talk about Love Never Dies. With that, I smell gardenias. Now, that is a sign, right, a static sign, and it's called the scent of sanctity. So I don't say a word. Teresa looks at me, and she says, Jamie, do you smell gardenias? So I said, Teresa, that is fantastic. Jean is giving us both a sign of his presence. Okay, static sign. Now I go home to my office, and I'm seeing a patient named Regina. Desperately needs to reconnect with her sister in spirit. She needs to know her sister's here. I tell her the story of what just happened and the scent of sanctity and the scent of gardenias. With that, I hear Jean saying to me, but Jamie, I wish I could give you roses. Now, at the moment that I hear Jean speaking to me and saying that, Regina pops up and she says, Jamie, I smell roses. Now, that was such an amazing way that Jean used her as an open vessel to communicate to me, you heard me right, I want to give you roses, and I had her say it to confirm you heard me right. So he was dialoguing with me through her as an open vessel. Wow. Now, I want to give you another example of this so people get a sense of this is so powerful, and people don't realize how we engage in these dialogues. It was this year, and I had just done the Coast to Coast radio show, and Love Never Dies became an overnight bestseller. It sold out on Amazon. The next day, I get a phone call from a guy who heard me. He says to me, I have to tell you that your husband is burning up my brains with messages for you. He's using him as an open vessel, right? So I get on the phone with the guy, and he says to me things that Jean used to say in French and in Italian. The guy says to me, but Jamie, I'm a hillbilly. I don't know no Italian. I believe you, dude. I believe you. So now, the next thing that happens, it's about a week later, and it's Valentine's Day. The guy calls me again. He says, you better be sitting down because this is going to freak you out. He said, I was sitting at my computer. He said, my hands were in my lap when I heard your husband speak to me, and he said, send Jamie the photo of the peach-colored rose. Now, nobody in the world knows Jean gave me peach-colored roses every week. That's wild enough. The guy says, with his hands in his lap, Jean opened a photograph on his computer of a rose, and it was a peach-colored rose. And then he opened the caption for the name of the photo, and it said, Peaches and Cream. The night before, this guy wrote to me, your husband says your time is now. And I wrote the guy back and said, Jean always said the cream rises to the top. So that was that gift to me. So he was speaking to me through this human open vessel with the help of the earthly props, the computer. Now, I want to tell you one more. This is still giving me chills. I haven't recovered from this one.
Well, let me just remind people that are tuning in that I'm speaking with Dr. Jamie Turndoff. Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased is her latest offering, and we've been dialoguing about the manifestations of her husband and even how he altered her appearance, changed the color of her hair, helped her go from a size 24 to a size 4 within 2 weeks because it was mostly water. We've talked about how he used individuals as open channels to bring messages to her, how he appeared just a few moments ago as a bird outside of her window and opened his mouth to let her know that it was him. And so if you're just tuning in right now, I'm with Dr. Jamie right now. She is often called the Love Doctor. Dr. Love and the founder of AskDrLove.com. So I just wanted you to know who that is. Please tell us another experience.
Okay, so this happened 2 weeks ago. Michael, I hope you're sitting down because this is going to knock your socks off. Now, this is so amazing. I have to back up and say that I went to the Bigger Game Expo and I presented Love Never Dies. On that day, I heard Jean say, Jamie, I want you to start training coaches in your transdimensional grief therapy method. Now, of course, I haven't told anybody because he just told me, he just induced the thought in my mind. I come home, I get an email from a woman who says to me, I hope you don't think I'm crazy. I'm a fan of your Love Never Dies Hay House show, and I have been so depressed, sick in mind, body, and spirit, and I want to kill myself. So I fell to my knees and I prayed to your husband, and I said to him, please help me. And she said, he told me, don't die, you can't die, you're going to be one of our coaches. Well, this freaked me out because obviously he came to her because he had only just told me about training coaches that same day. So now a couple of weeks ago, I'm doing my live Love Never Dies retreat, the first one here at my home. And it's live, and it's also broadcasting out on the Internet remotely. So the night before the retreat, I'm thinking, oh, I want to show some photos that are miraculous, photos that he sent to me in spirit. And I don't know how to find these photos. So 2 of the photos came through a disabled guy. Right after Jean left his body, a disabled guy, a stranger, wrote to me and he said, I saw an endorsement for a mattress from you. Is it legit? And I wrote him back at the time, and I said, yeah, it's legit, but I can't speak to you. You know, my husband just left his body. 6 weeks after my husband left his body, and that guy wrote to me, I get another email from him. But earlier in the day, people were walking up to me and saying, you're glowing. And I kept saying to Jean, why are they telling me I'm glowing? I'm bawling my eyes out all the time. So Jean said to me, Jamie, brides glow, and we're newlyweds in the new spiritual phase of our relationship. So that night, that disabled guy wrote to me again, and he said to me, I thought you'd like to see a photo of my beloved bird named Jamie. So I open up the photo, and yes, it's a bird named Jamie. But underneath that photo attachment is another photo attachment. And I open up that photo, and I see a photo of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Now, where did Jean and I go on our honeymoon? Paris. Where did our hotel overlook? The Eiffel Tower. So I immediately write the guy back, and I say, you said you were sending me a picture of a bird, but you made no mention of the Eiffel Tower. Do you know why you sent it? Never heard back from the guy. Convinced he was some kind of an angel, some kind of an open vessel, or maybe he didn't exist. I don't know. I saved those photos on my computer, but for the life of me, I could not find them, Michael. And I really wanted to share them at the Love Never Dies retreat. So as I'm lying in the bed, I'm thinking, I want to show these photos. And I'd like to also show the photo of that woman, the Hay House listener, who Jean also helped a couple of weeks before the retreat when she was so depressed again. And he said, I love my girl. Now, take a walk with me. And he takes her to a beach near her house, and he makes her look down at a pile of rocks, and on one of the rocks, written in marker, is, love my girl. So I wanted to show that photo, the bird photo from the disabled guy, the Eiffel Tower, and just before I'm going to sleep, I'm thinking, and my desktop, which I'm going to be sharing remotely, is covered with 1,000 file folders. I don't know how to get rid of them. I have no idea. So the day of the retreat, Michael, I have tech problems and I have to do a forced restart of my computer. I restart the computer. All the file folders are gone. My desktop is clean. And immediately I think, oh, my computer's dead. I lost all my data. No, Jean cleaned it for me. I didn't want them. He got rid of it.
Wow.
They were in the bowels of my computer, but not on the desktop. Now, I'm so blown away by this. So now I'm so lifted up, and I'm an hour and 48 minutes into the retreat, and I'm doing the live event on my porch. My computer with the camera is about 14 feet away from me. All of a sudden, I feel a sharp pain in my right ankle. I look down, and I see I've been stung by a horsefly, and I'm bleeding. So I joke to everybody in the live and the remote audience. I say, that must be a love bite from Jean. With that, I look up, Michael, and I see on my computer that the mouse, the cursor, is moving all by itself. And I say to everybody in the audience, in the local audience, do you guys see what Jean is doing with my computer? He's moving the mouse. And they all say, oh, my gosh, we see it. And I say, look, I'm 14 feet away. I'm nowhere near my computer. And they say, we see it. The next thing we know, Jean clicks on the screen share function so that now the remote participants can see him moving the mouse all over the screen. And then what happens next? I still can't believe it. He put up the photo of the Eiffel Tower. And, Michael, I have the whole thing recorded.
Oh, that is powerful.
So what is the thing? These are ways that our loved ones dialogue with us, through human open vessels, animal open vessels, through electronic devices, through phones. Now, Love Never Dies takes the communication with your loved ones in spirit to another level now. I put you in a trance. It's all in Love Never Dies, the book. And then I show you how to dialogue back and forth. And you can do it in writing. You can do it orally. I show you how to do the whole thing. Lots of examples from my own patients, my radio listeners, all of it. Now, here's the most beautiful part of this dialoguing with the departed, because we can dialogue to whatever extent we need. If we're elderly and we don't wish to form another primary attachment, we need to reconnect and dialogue and stay connected. If we're children who lost parents, if we're parents who lost children, we need to reconnect, stay connected, dialogue. If someone was ripped from you due to sudden accidental death or illness, you need to reconnect, dialogue, right? And what if you're one of the millions of people who have unfinished business?
Yes.
Well, now I show you how to dialogue in order to resolve that unfinished business. So the most exciting part here is the fact that, as I discovered, usually we have to wait until someone leaves his or her body in order to work it out. You know, we always think traditional grief therapy says, oh, well, they left their bodies, you're SOL, you didn't work it out. But it's quite the opposite.
Right.
One of my patients said, oh, I wish my mother would hurry up and die so we can work this out.
It's easier without the physical encumbrance, isn't it?
Exactly. And also, as I discovered, when they leave their bodies, they're more evolved. They are able to see how they messed up with us. And I discovered this only 1 week after Jean left his own body when I went to take my car in for repair. And I go to see the people at the repair shop. They don't know me because Jean did the car thing. And I say to Debbie behind the desk, Debbie, Jean recently died. I didn't coin the expression left his body so early in the game. It took me a while. So I said he died. And she said, oh, I'm a widow too. With that, Michael, her husband in spirit starts pounding down my door with a message for her. He says, tell her to stop making the same mistake that I made with our son because she's doing it now and she's creating the same power struggle. This flabbergasted me because I realized, wait a minute, he didn't get it when he lived in a body, but he gets it now.
He could see better. Yeah.
So isn't that exciting for all of us with unfinished business because now we have a chance to work it out with him. Now, there's one more thing I discovered that is so encouraging for all of us. Not only do they see better, they desperately want to work it out with us because their own spiritual growth and development requires them to work it out because they can't feel in peace. They can't evolve themselves if they have unfinished business with us.
Right. That's powerful.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I discovered this one, Michael, when it was Good Friday, and Jean said to me, Jamie, I want you to go see Lainey, the bird lady. Now, Lainey tried to help us save our little bird, Fluffy, and we were unsuccessful. I knew nothing about her personally. I go to her breeding place, and I walk in the door, Michael, and she says to me, you see this little Gouldian finch in the cage here? Yes, I say. She She said, this finch will be dead by nightfall. And I look at the bird, and it's not looking good. It's all slumped over and puffed up. She said the bird has not eaten in 2 days, and it's so small, if it doesn't get food immediately, it's really going to be dead by tonight. So I said, may I try to help the bird? She says, okay. So now remember I said energetic communication. Well, when we talk to spirit, we're communicating and sending and receiving energetic signals. Well, I am now energetically communicating with the bird. But I'm talking out loud so Lainey can hear me. I say to the bird, I want you to go down to your seed bowl right now, and I want you to start eating seeds. The bird instantly obeys me, starts scarfing up seeds like a little mini vacuum. Well, the next thing I know, the bird's getting better. He's chirping and he's singing. At this moment, I become aware of a spirit presence in the room, and it feels like it's Lainey's mother. I don't know who's in spirit, who isn't. And the mother says, I'm sorry I was such a weakling and I didn't protect you from him. I say this to Lainey, and she starts to cry, and she says, my mother, she always used to say, I'm a weakling and I'm sorry. At this moment, I look back at the bird, and the bird is looking sick again. And I am aware that there's another presence, and it's this other presence that was really bothering the bird. I tell the bird, go back to eat, don't worry about it. I'll help Lainey with this other presence. And now we begin to speak with this other presence. And he says to me to tell her, listen, I know you're still scared of me because I sexually molested you. And I want you to know I won't hurt you anymore, and you don't need to be afraid of me anymore. And I'm begging you to confront me about what I did so that you don't continue living like a scared child, a scared, abused child. And I need you to make me face this for my own development and for your own healing. I tell her all this. She cries again. She says, it's true, he did molest her. And we talk back and forth. We use my dialoguing with the departed. And when I leave, she's in peace with her father.
Wow. This has been a fantastic interview. For those of you tuning in, I've been speaking with Dr. Jamie Turndoff. And I know you've been spiritually mesmerized by the dynamism in her voice and her authenticity. Her book is Love Never Dies, How to Reconnect and Make Peace with the Deceased. And you can go to AskDrLove.com as well. This has been great.
Would you like me to give a gift to your listeners?
Please.
Just for you.
You have just a couple of seconds.
Just write to webmaster at AskDrLove.com when you buy the paperback edition. If you do it on the day you listen to the show, just write to webmaster at AskDrLove.com, and you'll receive a private video, my talk at the Bigger Game Expo, where Sean made a manifestation, and it was captured on film.
Fantastic. Please do exactly what she said and receive that powerful gift. And be aware that your loved ones are right around you. I talk to my mother and my grandparents every single day as I get up to pray and meditate and have wonderful dialogue with them. The veil is thin, and we want to continue to grow, develop, and unfold to our greatest yet to be. And we are not alone. Dr. Jamie, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You are a light of love on this planet.
Thank you so much, and as are you. If you want to know what's going on at Agape, please go to agapelive.com, stream our live services, sign up for my end of the year New Year's retreat, take classes. We'll be seeing you soon. Have a bright and magnificent day.